Bronson's in trouble. That's
Jon
it.
Jones has
That's
regained the throne!
Wow.
Hey, what's up, guys? The subject of how much money a fighter will get in the UFC is a sensitive one. Okay, if I would get offered almost $10 million to fight a UFC fighter in a cage for a couple of minutes, I would do it even if I knew all my teeth would fall out. But Jon Jones certainly wouldn't. Let's find why he said no to such an offer. Before we continue, make sure to hit that subscribe button and notification bar for more future uploads on UFC fighters. Even though it has hit the mainstream and generates hundreds of dollars per fight, the UFC loves keeping its costs as low as possible. This has led many of its fighters to make a huge fuss about their pay. However, the pay is not always the initial reason why fighters might reject a low-paid fight. Some even use the low price as an excuse to get out of a big fight they know they have a low chance of winning. Jon Jones priced himself out of the UFC heavyweight fight with Francis Ngannou. Jon Jones has been the most impressive fight rejecter in all of UFC history. Literally, Jon Jones was a UFC light heavyweight champ. However, he's now at odds with the raise he has been given as he feels he is underpaid compared to the influence he has. The thing that made more noise in the media was that his fight with UFC heavyweight champ Francis Ngannou is on the verge of getting cancelled. According to reporters, Jon Jones was initially offered $8 million for fighting Francis Ngannou. After he immediately refused due to the low pay, they agreed to give him a total of $10 million by the end of the fight. But all of this doesn't make any sense. Why? Well, because the price UFC is willing to pay him for one fight is the highest he has gotten in his life. His most famous fights have paid him around $2 million, but other than that, nobody has witnessed him being worth more or even getting paid more. The main issue lies all in his fighting history, which is both up and down. This has led the UFC to question his worth in the championship and not give him a precise offer based on his performance in his fights. Something we have no clue about whatsoever is what percentage of the $10 million will be revenue that UFC gets out of their pay-per-views. So, we cannot say much about whether or not the price is fair or mediocre when compared to Jon Jones' skills. Jon rejected this fight just recently, and if he doesn't change his mind, the UFC has decided to move on with the championship by matching up Francis Ngannou with Derrick Lewis instead. Jon's side of the story to why things ended up like this. Jon explained that he was disappointed and hurt, and for now, he's only walking on ice regarding the fight if UFC will not pay him more to fight Francis. The champion has been trying to get in the heavyweight division for many years now. He finally reached the opportunity when he got into some drama with Francis Ngannou. This eventually led fans to want to see more of them fighting. This eventually led the UFC to think it would be a good idea for them to get in a fight together. MMA fans nearly lost it when they found out that there was a possibility of the most feared puncher in the heavyweight division fighting the greatest mixed martial artist of all time. Everything just got better when Jon took things to Twitter to announce that his $10 million pay for the fight was mediocre. The tweet went viral, and Jon was invited to discuss this with the MMA Roadshow, featuring John Morgan. Jon Jones shocked everyone when he made fun of the UFC by saying they wouldn't pony up to make the fight possible. Jon said that he was shocked when he found out he would be getting paid only $10 million. He felt as if both his and his management team's efforts had gone to waste. He said that ever since he started fighting, he had waited for the moment to become a part of big fights. This is because his managing team advised him that the big fights were where all the money's at, especially in the heavyweight division. Momentarily, Jon has dominated the light heavyweight and is considered the best pound-for-pound fighter in history. He would likely be the longest reigning champ in this division if it wasn't for the outside the octagon transgressions. Now that this division is full, viewers are asking to see Jon take more challenging fights with higher risk. If you think about it, this is the highest risk he has been offered for the moment. Fighting Ngannou will be a challenge for him, and his life-altering punching power is enough for the average person to end up in a coma. Jon Jones said that the UFC had promised him a new contract with a difference if he would manage to do heavyweight. That is why Jon said all this time he tried to become a heavyweight champion and focus his career on heavyweight so he can be a part of some big fights. But these fights require putting a lot of risk on the line and causing serious damage. However, when he found out that this was not going to happen, his stomach turned upside down. In the beginning, beginning, Jon said that he tried to make negotiations with the UFC, but they denied almost immediately. As of today, Jon has managed to be paid $500,000 for each of his last 7 fights, but if we compare this to other UFC fighters, his highest purse falls are nearly as much as the maximum purses in the history of the UFC. Conor McGregor and Ronda Rousey each have a $3 million purse against Khabib Nurmagomedov and Amanda Nunes. On the other hand, Brock Lesnar raked in $2.5 million for his fight with Mark Hunt. Nurmagomedov made $2 million fighting McGregor, and Stipe Miocic earned just a bit over $1 million when fighting Daniel Cormier. Then there's Alistair Overeem, who has not even been a UFC champion before and raked in $850,000 when he lost against Ngannou. It's quite a sensitive topic when it comes to arguing whether or not Jones is a better fighter than all the fighters we just mentioned. Jones said that he thinks he deserves more, as he considers this fight as the riskiest fight in history. However, he did reveal that he had a high interest in taking this opportunity, but first wants the UFC to reconsider its offer. Jones added that if the UFC doesn't reconsider, he'll be disappointed, and this will show that they don't value him as much to give him the price he deserves. In the interview, Jones seemed highly upset and explained that he will not be responding to the UFC if they continue treating him like this. He said that he feels fine letting someone else fight for the belt, or even vacating the belt. He'll come around when he feels he is ready to and sees how much they're willing to pay him after he's been absent. But for now, he feels as if he has nothing to win if he fights Jan Blachowicz or Dominic Reyes. Derek Lewis came forward to replace Jones in the fight. Just a few days after Jones released the interview, the Black Beast, Derek Lewis, had some hard feedback to give to the fighter. Officially, the only thing that is preventing the fight from happening is Jones, and his problem with the amount of money he's getting from the fight. Lewis came forward saying that he would take the fight and replace Jones for a much lower number. However, when compared with the attention that Jones is getting, the UFC isn't sure if they should spend even half of the offer for a name like Derek Lewis. Although Lewis took part in one of the most boring fights in heavyweight history when he was against Curtis Blaydes, he still has a chance of turning this boring match into fireworks if he fights against Ngannou. This is because both of them are considered the hardest punchers in the division they're in. Joe Rogan and Dana White both supported Lewis in being the perfect candidate to replace Jones in this match. Both of them already had their first match, which was not the most spectacular thing we have ever seen in UFC history, but many believe that this rematch might be perfect, since both fighters are now coming off a harsh knockout win. Jones was not left out of the picture in the debate as to who should replace him in the fight against Ngannou. He told Lewis that the opportunity best fit him as both Jones and Ngannou had gained a lot of recognition from fans. Jones also added that if the fight between him and Ngannou happens, it will attract more viewers and give the UFC much more revenue. Either way, viewers are crossing their fingers that the fight between Jones and Ngannou happens and that the UFC will come to an agreement when it comes to paying Jones. Do you think Jones is losing his chances to this big opportunity, or do you think he deserves to get higher pay? Leave your thoughts down in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to smash that like button. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.